one person said employability is not equal to a job. So we can't really debate India at 100 unless we define employability. So if employability is equal to a job, or is it equal to something else?
It's not equal to job. It's about potential, that all of us have innate potential. And employability is all about harnessing that potential and bringing your best to the work.
In your mind, what is employability if it's not a job? Or is it potential?
I think it's about connecting the ability to generate a livelihood and the intersection with sort of purpose, if I can use that in a bit more specific way. Because that's, when you say employability, it's long-term, over a lifetime. I think without purpose, it's impossible to sustain.
I agree with that. Employability is not only about just a job. He should have that intention and interest also to develop that skill and the field and enter into it and have a long-term goal.
So that's an input metric in some sense, is it? Or is it an output metric? What is the output metric of employability?
I stay with my thought around the potential.
So then elaborate for me, because I view the world through the wage premium lens. India doesn't have a jobs problem, we have a wages problem. Anybody can get a job. So when you say potential, how do we measure spiritual, sort of intellectual, physical potential? What?
So when we talk about employability as a potential, it's all about bringing your best to the workplace. And we should clearly understand that today's world is very different. We do not have assembly line workers. Every person brings a very different persona and the aptitude and the skills to the work. Now, it's all about matching those innate abilities to the right workplace. And that's a discovery work, that as a person, I should be able to discover the opportunities where I can demonstrate, I get the opportunities to demonstrate my abilities. And the workplaces should be able to signal that what kind of talent match will bring the best results for them. And that's where I think that the potential question comes from. That it's not only about your knowledge, it's whole persona that you bring along with that. Skills allow you to discover that and harness that and bring that to the workplace. So it's clearly a workplace issue that I'm talking about. And all of us discover our best from the workplaces itself. And because that's the place where we can bring out what we have in it for the world. So that's the issue that I think.
See, maybe if you could just, at Godhart's law, I work a lot with government, and Godhart has a law that when the metric becomes the goal, the metric ceases to be useful, right? So what is the goal that how should we think about the goal for India at 100 for employability?
I think there are two dimensions to that.
No, we'll come to strategy next. Right?
Yeah,
so let's first all agree on what is the goal for India at 100 in employability.
Yeah, so on the goal itself, I think there are two dimensions to the goal. One is at an individual level, and for me at an individual level is about realizing one's potential, going back to this point. It's hard to sort of quantify that, but if one feels that I'm able to realize my potential, that means that I've got a sort of I've had a successful employment. And the second is also has the sum of parts, the sum of all individuals, has it made the country a better place across various dimensions? So I think two output metrics, one at an individual level, one at a society level, would be worth looking at.
Dr. Maishilkar was talking about VUCA world. We don't even know what at 100 years India will be required as jobs. So the only answer for this, in my way of understanding of 35 years, that we should be prepared for self-employment, solopreneurship, and ancillary entrepreneurship. That is where I think the future will look forward, and according to that skills, then they get into the employable mode also by having this gig economy or hustle economy, what we talk. I have seen in my experience that people are not sure about what they are doing, especially in undergraduate and postgraduate. 98% of the people follow the sheep flock mentality. I want to get into finance, I want to get into marketing, I want to get into science. It's a forensic science, for example. We have educated more than 3,000 students, not even 2 people got a job. But everybody rushes towards forensic science. Okay, it will be cyber crime, cyber security, we'll get into 4G, but then we don't even assess that. And Mr. Manish, you expressed about the viability and financial capacity of them. So, one small example I want to give you, deprivation, just for all of you to understand. I had an opportunity school, 2,000 children, bringing from 408 villages. One example, there are more than 500 examples. I have more than million examples, but it's not the platform to talk. Just to give you how it works. This girl was in 7th standard, deprived of everything, kindergarten, gap is 8 years. I tell my teachers, no problem, after the class hours, we will not fail, 10th standard, they have to face the examination. But she observes everything. She passes with 87% marks. That is how the state board. 11, 12, she comes to urban and she gets confused. Oh, I see, I have failed in 4 subjects. Well, why did you fail? You got 87% marks in 3 years. This girl said, see, I looked at the urban situation, I was in the village, you ran the school there. Now I'm here, I wanted to become a scientist. But now I'm seeing these people with colorful dresses and all. I'm a very poor girl, I'm not able to, I'm deprived of that. So I had that pessimistic attitude and maybe lack of motivation. So that attitude went her, and then she said, what will you do now? Shall I give? I want to start a business. And I want to give job to 2,000 people. Employability. I don't want to study now. Well, how do you do business? I don't have money. No, you always used to tell me, no, we should become entrepreneurs without money. So what will you do? Should I give you 50,000 rupees? No, not required. Give me your blessings. Just allow me to supply 100 liters of milk to the school which you are running that school in a day. I will just travel 11 kilometers from there. And see that 1 rupee per liter, I get 100 rupees, I learn 3,000. 6 months, let me master that art. Now there is a lot of message in that. That girl has educated millions of people. Example to millions of people. And this she supplies 100 liters of milk, 100 rupees, 3,000, she masters that art. Then she comes and tells my people, okay, I will supply now spices, rice. Then she go to Art of Living and says, I will supply, you have no choice, Mr. Jain Group has given this order, so you also have no choice. Then she goes to Toyota and she supplies. And today she has employed 2,500 people with 40,000 rupees, 30,000 salary. Her net worth is 300 crores. And she is 27 years old.
So are you giving up on jobs and say,
not giving up on the job. She is creating job situations. Employable with set standards, employability, and she is appointed 2,000. She become one person may become an entrepreneur, but they create a situation for 100 people, 200 people.
Yeah, but people. India, 50% of our labor force is already self-employed, right? So they are not self-employed. They are
unorganized.
They are self-exploiting.
Yes.
So you don't want more entrepreneurs like that, right? Because not everybody can be an entrepreneur, and not all entrepreneurship is viable.
No, entrepreneurship across the world averages will be only 3%.
Yeah.
22% will be the
solution. So it's not a solution
to
India. So let's switch topics, because I'm obviously losing this argument. So I think we have to define employability in terms of productivity, but we can close with that if you disagree when I'm not able to convince you. At India at 100, what do you think will be the relative roles of the world of skills and the world of education? Is it managing the intersection? Is it converging them? Are these sort of, how do you think about education and skills 25 years from now? If you were to use the next 25 years to design a convergence, would you design traffic lights? Would you design interchanges? Would you design flyovers? How would you, all three of you, how would you design skills and education 25 years from now?
So when we talk of India at 100, I think first let's think about what the possibilities in front of us are. Today we are about $4 trillion economy, about $2,500 per capita GDP, and we have about 43 crore people in middle class. India at 100, if we grow at 7.5%, 7% real, will be about a $35 trillion economy, divided by the population that we will have at that point of time, will be about $20,000 per capita. and 100 crore middle class. And we all know that India is a real internal consumption story. That's the opportunity that we are looking in front of us. And the other thing is that in next 25 years, the world will add about 100 crore new people in the workforce. Every fourth or fifth person will be Indian because of the median age, 28 years of median age. It means two things. One is that these numbers will materialize. $35 trillion economy, $20,000 per capita. But if we are not taking care of the people's employability, which is a skills question, there will be hugely iniquitous society. What an iniquitous society will build. And the other is that we'll miss the opportunity to participate. That our claim is not on the $35 trillion Indian economy. Our claim is actually a much larger proportion of a global economy because the productive workforce for the world will come from India. And that is where I think the education and skills, we have to use them in such a way that the education, skills and workplaces, they all have to be seen as a seamless ether kind of a space where people, because learning also is not going to be something that you can acquire at 20 years of education and one degree will take care of you for life. Workplaces will keep on evolving. They will send signal back to the people who are working. They have to go back to education. So I personally believe that it is going to be an interchange between skills, workforce and education. And that is where the design that the country is trying to do at this point of time. That the lifelong learning in terms of nobody should actually aspire to a 22 years of education thing. We should get to the work as quickly as possible. Keep learning at the workplace, get back to the education space, and this interface is extremely important for the work.
What is your sense? I mean, employers keep whining about unemployability, which is not true because 47% of graduates are not unemployed. They are, we keep saying they're unemployable, but they're not unemployed, which means there's a gap between aspirations. Universities keep saying employers are not willing to step up. And the skill system says there's a caste system in universities. They look down upon our diplomas and certificates. And all they have is some regulatory ability to print degrees which society somehow has to. So how would you design the skill and education system? Would you converge them? Would you, what would you do if you were to just think 25 years ago?
I think that there are sort of three elements to this. One is relevance. So skills and education, if it's not producing relevant in an uncertain world, relevance has got to be a cornerstone of sort of the system that we imagine 25 years from now. The second is matchmaking, right? Matchmaking, and I don't want us to think about restricting matchmaking to platform companies and everyone has a responsibility to matchmake where there is a requirement of skills and where there is a supply of skills, right? So we all have to take ownership, demonstrate significant skill in the game for matchmaking, otherwise those connecting the dots are not going to happen. And finally, a combination of the first two is really thinking deeper ecosystem, right? We've all been used to, as an economy, monolithic corporate world for a long time. That is getting dismantled to becoming sort of a platform economy, if I can call it that. But that platform economy to me today is at a very, very nascent stage, very immature. And I think a mature version of a platform economy is when everyone is seriously thinking of being a node on an ecosystem, deeply integrated, with sort of self-interest. Obviously, is important, but self-interest has to be thought broadly in terms of making sure that data, skills, finance flow through ecosystems much more smoothly than it does right now. There is still a lot of, we think we are a platform company, but we hold on to data. We think we are a platform company, but we hold on to capital. We think we are a platform economy, but we are holding on to everything. We can never be a platform economy if we are just constantly holding on to stuff. So I think there are these three dimensions in my view, just reimagining this thing will find.
I agree with you. Vocationalization of education, what you are thinking, that is the need of the hour. Because the academics as a university setup in this country, it is somewhere 30 years behind. We are not able to match up to the requirement. And also the industry labs or industry internship doesn't give the full answers. Industry is not able to come into the university is not able to get into industry. So there is a huge gap, and especially the teachers' pedagogy, their training skills are very poor. There is no research, there is no applied learning, there is no connectivity. So to that, the next 25 years it has to happen. It is the community colleges concept, the vocationalization of education and a continuous learning for maybe in their lifetime, maybe 30 to 40, 50 skill sets they have to observe. Because my question comes here is that a person who wants to get employable is not sticking on to that job. In 20, 25 years, they change 15 jobs. So there are continuous skills there. Every time they have to go to a different skill. From my shooter was telling that he was not a IT guy, but he went into IT, he succeeded. But one or the odd will succeed. So it's a continuous vocationalization and continuous learning in life. These degrees will have no meaning. After 12th standard or after 10th standard, they have to go through certification, and they can do the degree. NEP allows 10, 15 years, they can do that.
But do you think vocationalization of higher education is the only way to increase employability of graduates? I mean, I didn't mean to converge those two in my mind. I mean, would you say that the way to increase employability of graduates is to merge ITIs and universities, is to merge the Ministry of Skills and Ministry of Education? Is that what, I mean, that's what you're saying essentially. I'm not sure I agree, but is that how you think too?
No, but I personally use a dialogue between the workplace and the education ecosystem that is more important. And employability would actually mean that those who are in the education system have a better view of what is happening at the workplace. So making education more, having more project orientation, having more connect with what is happening at the workplace. The education should not be an end in itself, that you acquire lots of theoretical concepts, but how in these schools they teach through the case studies and things like that. Can we adopt those models and more integration with the workforce, so work embedded degree programs? Those are the kind of variation. We have to think of education as very different. That how do we let the workplaces move the host? When we talk about employability, we are actually talking about workplaces. And the whole idea is that they have to come into the dialogue, and that they are busy, they won't be able to come to the dialogue itself, but they have the workplace problems. And how do we let the students participate into those workplace problems and solve for them? And that learning is far more powerful than forward. When we talk about vocationalization of education, we just try that, bring some, again we are thinking in the education mindset only. That a curriculum which is, because if you see, we were talking about SQF and all that. Again, we are making a very tight straitjacket thing, curriculum, content, and very standardization. That's not going to solve the problem. We have to bring that flexibility, and that is what I believe, that this dialogue is far more important than just bringing this concept.
Do you want to add to that? I mean, will you converge it or?
No, so I also don't think that convergence is the solution, but linking them in the context of making sure that the output of the workforce and the skills that the workforce has is relevant to the needs of the time. So they need to be distinct, but there needs to be relevance as the bridge between the two.
Yes. Project-centric learning. That is where the relevance can come through vocationalization, skill, and industry. Industry labs coming within the organization is very important. Whether it is automobile, whether it is IT, whether it is mechanical, whether it is wash, or whether it is battery, they give the hands-on experience, because the university does not have big labs, and only the corporates have that lab, so it has to sync between them both. In 32 years, I have not seen, we are supposed to be a reasonable good institution, but I have never seen students taking serious interest in degree. Hardly they come 60 days a year. Their attendance in North area is only 30% attendance. So suddenly a graduate goes to a postgraduate, and we expect them to perform in a postgraduate. An undergraduate foundation is not there. School is examination oriented system. So synergy, yes, I agree with both of you. It has to be synergy between the industry, vocational skill as well as the practical project-centric learning method, where 80% of the time they reason out. And I'm sure this thing can work India employable extraordinarily in next 25 years.
Here, somehow the way we are communicating, we are only talking about that a graduate student has to get employed. That's the line of conversation that we are having. We are forgetting that a large mass of people who are in the workforce, their employability is also will become questionable over a period of time. And education institution does not mean that somebody comes to an education institution and they go out and they never come back. We have to think about this, that educational institutions will continue to receive those who are already those who are in the workforce. Education institutions should become attractive to them, that they are coming back, they are learning, and they are going back in the workforce. So our conversation of employability should not ignore those who are in the workforce, because the force of change that we are seeing around us will make them, the relevance question that he's talking about, will make them irrelevant in no point of time.
But universities have a sort of antibiotic reaction to employed learners, right? Universities are not set up from a governance perspective, from an incentives perspective. I'm not blaming universities. I'm saying universities' self-image is we service full-time learners. You're suggesting that, and I believe that India should be the first country in the world where the population of employed learners crosses full-time learners, right? There's no country in the world today where employed learners are more than full-time learners. I think India has to do that because of our 200 million stock that got put in the workforce without any skills. So repair, prepare, upgrade being a continuum, for us upgrade and repair is more important than prepare. But do you think universities, in the way that they are governed, in the way that they are structured, in the way that they are financed, can even handle employed learners? And maybe both of you, I mean, employed learners need different admissions, they need different assessments, they need different curriculum, they need different delivery. And universities are not set up for that, at least today.
But if you see the credit system, with a credit system, you can actually have a class of mix where people can come, they can study for just a semester. If we can bring 20% of the students who are coming to a class for a certificate course, and if we can think of degree as a stack of certificates, that will solve a lot of problem, because in the same class, if you can have 20 to 25% who are employed learners, the kind of diversity that the rich experience that they will bring to class is far more powerful. And I think that it is high time to start thinking about it. A class which is composed of the fresh students and the employed learners who come there for a shorter duration, they want to upgrade one skill, and that's where the universities are highly capable of designing your curriculums in such a way that they allow entry to the.
So your vision of an India at 100 is employed learners are more than full-time learners. Now that will be a nightmare for a university.
Yeah, no. Some of the corporates like some Adani, Green, 150 students.
No. Will you have more employed learners than full-time learners?
We'll have.
You will have, or you can imagine that?
I can.
How will you do that? What will be the admission criteria? What will be the exams?
See, in admission criteria, if they have been 12th or graduates, they can always do double graduation. They can do certificate courses. They can come for 10 credit courses. They can come for 15 credit courses. 120. So 2 months, 3 months.
No, in the same class.
Same class, possible. It will bring good experience among the fresh learners, and because they will be hands-on.
What do you think? The same classroom, 20%, 40% employed learners, 60% full-time youngsters teaching?
I can't imagine that in the same classroom. I can imagine a very vibrant employed learning future. It requires different business models. I can't imagine them.
So in the same institution, but not in the same class.
I'll take out another minute. I'll just give an example of where my sort of organization is housed. Is in IIT Madras Research Park, right? It's an incubation center of IIT Madras. There are about 1,000 companies that have been incubated under that facility. You may think that this is the top end of academia, but that's fine. It's one example, and it's a fantastic example of how, because of that nexus, IIT Madras is actually now producing certificate programs for the 1,000 companies that are incubated out of that campus, and highly relevant because it comes out of daily dialogue, and it's a constant supply of officers and engineers who are getting registered onto those programs, and then they come back and they are sponsored by their organizations. So I think that's a great example to sort of to just understand.
This may be an exceptional case.
Maybe, but I
cannot be.
I can say that this is quite a scalable
But
model.
what about the 1,300 universities in India, another 1,000 which is going to happen, 2,500? So that is a big question which I think Manish has.
So I wanted to just take to your point also about everybody's talking about matching and everybody's talking about, and Dr. Mashelkar mentioned about just the world is much more unpredictable than it used to be, right? I mean, I've studied 40, but the world used to be unpredictable even before. I've studied 40 of the country reports, Japan in 1980, US in 2000, UK. There are about 40 reports who have tried to predict where jobs will be. All of them have the efficacy of palm reading or astrology. So 50% of the jobs in the US in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s did not exist in the decade before. So volatility is something. But what if something else is going on in the world of work? And I wanted to get your take and all of you on this, because a good farmer is 2 times better than a bad farmer. A good plumber or electrician is 4 times better than a bad plumber or electrician. But a good software programmer is 100 times better than a bad software programmer. A good CEO is 200 times better than a bad CEO. And a good vice chancellor is 500 times better than a bad vice chancellor, clearly, as we know. So, what if this inequality which you were worried about, I'm playing on you, said that at 9, what if the world of work, what if technology, what if globalization, what if this is a secular force? What can the world of education and employers do, or is this just the hand we've been dealt? That, in the good old days, an electrician or a plumber, bad, good, the standard deviation of quality was 5 times, but now we pay CEOs 100 times more. So do you worry about this structural, in knowledge businesses, the inequality is a birthing thing?
So we all know that even in the product world, if you see, there are plumbing fittings which are 100 times more expensive than the normal plumbing fitting that you get to. So somehow we are in that mindset where we think that a plumbing or electrical work or something, that the value chain that they can address to is a very small value chain. Whereas the world which is unfolding before us is far more experienced. And if we start seeing from that perspective, that every service request that comes to a person who's technically competent, that person may happen to be a code writer or maybe a person who solves wiring problems. And we know that with Google Homes, etc., your houses are also becoming codified. We have to get them ready to deal with experiential environment. And that is where I personally believe that they can bring.
So you don't worry about it?
I don't worry. I personally feel that, the kind of data that is unfolding before us, if we just train them to understand them and bring perspectives into the life of the user. I'll just give you an example of electricity. We all were used to a single tariff all our lives. Now, but with the evolving world of just-in-time, real-time metering because of the demand and supply that grids cannot handle, a lot of newer possibilities are emerging as to how do we use our appliances in the home itself. And that's a knowledge that the person who today, when we use term electrician, we peg that person down to a certain level.
So AI, ML, robotics
needs to be taught to everyone.
No, so it doesn't bother you that these might be structural changes in the labor market structures, employment?
No, I personally
doesn't bother you.
That AI should be taught to everyone. Data has to become everybody's pocket. What we have to learn.
But it might be above the pay grade of some people. I mean, I don't think I can learn AI, ML at this stage, or I will have to.
But the beauty, I'll just give you one example that people thought that smartphones cannot be used by the illiterate ones. Even the illiterate ones today, they somehow we feel that we ignored the ingenuity of the human mind.
Okay.
They are not educated, but from a number, visual pattern of a number, they are able to find out that this is the number that I have to dial. If this is the number flashing on my screen, so and so is calling me. Human mind is very ingenious, and if we allow them to, and I personally believe we will all see that that's just the way we use this phone and internet today, without bothering about the underlying technology which operates that. People will be using this data, and AI will be at every level, and that should be, if we don't have the vision today and here and now, we will be doing injustice to the.
Okay. But do you worry about structural changes in the world of work? I mean, I disagree with him because you can drive a car without knowing how the car works. I mean, you can use a phone without having to design a phone. But I think there may be structural challenges. But maybe he doesn't think so. What do you think?
No, I do worry about that. I do worry about what's happening right now is going to significantly disrupt employability in the future and the amount of jobs that are going to be available, or more importantly, the kind of work that is really important, and then work backwards from there, the kind of skills that will be required to remain employable in the future. So I do worry about that a lot, and I do think that the way we think of skills required to be employable are going to be very different from the one that we think today, and hence I think things like systems thinking, cognitive ability, being a generalist instead of a specialist are probably those who will be more universally relevant and required from now, because a lot of the routine specialization is going to be disrupted big time. So I do worry about that, and so it's a great question.
So what would you do for India at 100 today to sort of assuage your worry?
I think just reset the way we are focused on education and skill development, reset it to cognitive abilities, reset to generalist being thinking, reset to the liberal arts, if I can use that word, type curriculum and systems thinking. So just reset of what we are training people for would be one big theme for me.
Jack Ma made a statement that once the machine takes over, everybody will have to do their hobbies only. They will not have any other work to do. But looking at the future practically, yes, they have to upgrade their knowledge as it will be required. Instead of getting worried about 2050, every 3 years they take up their situation and the world gets connected with that. The way you said that everybody has to go through artificial intelligence, or you take up data learning. So communication will be the key, connectivity will be the key, infrastructure is growing, the world is growing. By 2035, no poverty, poverty elevation will be there. Everybody will be capable of managing themselves. So philanthropy has taken place in a big way, CSR. So it's a continuous learning, 100 to 500 times in their lifetime. They have to upgrade according to the need of the situation. And I'm sure with India getting into the top 3 economies in the world with fifth now, per capita income of $30 trillion, $35 trillion, it is possible. $6 trillion is going to happen by 2030. Already we are $3 to $4 trillion now. So it will grow with that capacity. So capacity building will be a continuous affair.
No, but our universities, again, this
No,
question of
these
lifelong
all
learning.
present
What were
universities,
universities doing? What are universities doing for lifelong learning, or what can they do?
Present university has to get scrapped completely. New age universities has to start. This may not.
What
be
is a
able
new
to-
age university?
The way blend of technical skills, blend of soft skills, blend of art, liberal education, liberal studies on the lines
But
of
are
that.
IITs in Harvard or Cambridge or Stanford going to vanish? I don't think so.
No,
Are research university? Or are you saying there are two kinds of universities? There is a research university and
the
there is
NEP has said teaching university, maybe a skill research university. So it has to be categorized into 3 varieties. Those who are only into teaching, they are not into research. Without our universities lack research capabilities. Our teachers are not equipped for research. Without research, applied knowledge and industry connect will never happen at all. And if that has to happen, I think Dr. Mashalkar has the answers for all these questions. He has been talking this from last 20-25 years, that our publication is not even 0.01% and it is only cut paste. So it is only for the development. If everybody comes together, and if the research and patenting and applied learning, project-centric learning, I'm sure that is the skill of the world, and automatically they'll adapt to any skills available at that time.
So just to the question of financing. because it really bothers me, because that feels like that's a missing piece in the puzzle, right? Who pays? I mean, there are only 3 or 4 sources of payment, and it's obviously not realistic to expect one of the pillars of this stool, or 3 pillars or 4 pillars, to bear all the weight. But how do we solve this financing problem, which today might be the binding constraint? I mean, there were always constraints of curriculum, there are other constraints, but what in your mind is a solution? How do we solve this? Who pays for these 200 million learners in the next 25 years?
So I'll just talk about the financing innovations that we have done at NSTC over the last 2 years, and we can draw lessons from there. One is that we started a skill impact bond, and the impact bond is actually funding the outcomes. That outcomes are not even certificate or employment, it's about retention. That if employee is retained for 6 months, there is every likelihood that it will turn into a meaningful life. So that's and there are outcome funders who are funding this. So that's one powerful way of coming this. There is a social stock exchange coming up, and the skill loan that we pursued with some non-banking financial companies, that has been successful, and now very soon the skill loan, the government of India facility, which somehow could not function well because it focused only on the banks. Now we are going to bring in MBA that things. So I believe that the grant funding, etc., are not the right solution. They can only provide some sort of a bridge finance. I'll just give you one example that we were just thinking of leveraging a CSR. Typically, you have a 3-year window for a CSR to be spent. What we thought is that can we create a sort of a guarantee fund, which is a fund-based guarantee against which the financing companies can lend for skill. And so 2 years you keep it as a fund-backed guarantee. 3rd year you bring an interest subvention there. So I think the social stock exchange and the impact, the philanthropic funding that comes from this thing is far more powerful than even the CSR. And believe me not, that the whole focus on ESG, that means that the access to capital market itself will get governed by the ESG this thing. So we are very excited about that. Lots of newer financing opportunities, and I'm 100% sure that ultimately student-based model is what works the best. The governments and philanthropic institutions can provide bridge financing. We should solve for access to finance. Cost of finance, I'm not too worried, because there will be lots of solutions. Right now we are talking about access to finance because they open up demand side, they open up the right channelizing of funding. So I'm seeing a lot of
clear student page. Do you have any thoughts on financing? If anybody has questions, please raise your hand. Okay, I'll come to you then. Otherwise, we can just keep talking.
So I'm actually very bullish about the financing solutions because I do think that there is fundamentally
the ones he mentioned, or more
as an
others.
example of that, but I'll go slightly more deeper. I'll say finance is going through, like many other industries, is going through a unbundling and rebundling of financial services. So every single part of a financial product is getting unbundled and getting rebundled in a meaningful way, and the rebundling is involving multiple players. So if in the old world a single institution provided a single product, in a rebundled financial solution there are multiple institutions that are partnering to bring together the product in a much more meaningful manner, which means the partnership between different companies in order to get the access to finance problem solved. So I'm actually super excited about financing problem. The second interesting development that's happening is that just like every company needs to become a tech company or with a tech mindset, I think every company needs to have a financial mindset, which means that you need to think of the ability to finance, think of building finance partnerships as part of your supply chain in order to retain workforce, attract workforce. So you can't hive off financing and say that's not my problem, that's the employee's problem. You need to think of creating capabilities that make available.
Even universities?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Financing?
You were mentioning.
Did you get a mic to the gentleman there? But you go ahead.
Yeah.
The mic will reach.
You were mentioning about earn while learning. That is one of the best solutions Definitely, there are many institutions, many packages, concepts will emerge. I have created an experiment, maybe first time in India, Jain University. More than 1,000 students are earning 10 lakh rupees a year within just 3 months. With outside their classroom, through project-centric learning, they have to go and use their skill sets and earn that money and come. 5% goes to the teacher's fund. And I'm working out a model where every teacher after retirement should have a $1 million bank balance. That is where their mentorship works. And more than five groups, I have created 500 groups. Last 2 years I have been experimenting. And if this model works out, every student can earn their fees. They are not burden on their parents. That's the only way they become self-confident, they become self-reliant, they are communicative, they understand neighborhood, and the family, friends. I have created a model, family and friends. Manish, if your family, if you take from your mother's side and father's side, and your brother's side and your sister's side, married children, you'll have 400 members when you invite in a function in your family marriage. 400 people will be there. Some will be a professor, some will be a business leader. And in that 400 people, if you can market the products of a lakh of rupees, the minimum low hanging fruit is required. And that itself is a 5 lakh rupees, 6 lakh rupees property without even becoming an entrepreneur. So he or she developed that skills. And we have already.
But if your product doesn't work, then you lose your family. You lose your family.
No, it's not only family. One second.
So let me just.
Family also, each person has in Facebook 800 friends. So 3 lakh data is there. You have to create a 10 lakh rupees business with 5 lakh rupees of profit.
Yes, sir. Do you have a question, please? If you have a comment, give your name to Shantanu and he'll invite you next time. So it's questions. Go ahead.
Okay. So maybe I'm hallucinating if I'm doing so just one. But after listening to this wonderful discussion, I had this one question. Isn't it that we are expecting a boyfriend to become husband-like material? So what I mean by this is that education and skills. Why are we thinking that education leads to employability? Education, let it be a different domain altogether.
Okay.
And skill being the driving force for employability. So if I am educated, I am forced to be employed.
So that's your question. Do you think those two should be separate?
I'll go back to the relevance question. If I acquire a lot of education, so the same thing that do you want to pursue a research? Perfectly fine. But if your purpose of education is to get to the workplace, the education has to become workplace relevant. And that's where the education is, they have to work with that.
I agree with him. I mean, even if you want to do research, research is another version of employment. So education has to be, has to bridge that gap.
I want to understand your question properly.
My question basically is that if I am trying to get educated, why am I being forced to get employed also? My education is just my personal, learning process. If I want to get employed, probably I need some skills that is required in the society or in the corporate sector.
So he's distinguishing between learning for living and learning,
Yes,
learning for citizenship and learning for earning. So it's how do you live without earning?
No, but career-wise, earning is required to grow in life.
Yes, sir, that's the thing.
No,
that
not
I'm
if you've
questioning.
chosen your parents wisely. So there could be one solution to pursue without earning.
That's what I'm
So
questioning.
elaborate. I think he's struggling with. All three are saying that is there an employment outcome not required, or you're saying these are two parallel? Maybe that's what
I'm not getting the
No,
clarity.
let him.
Yeah, that's exactly that I'm trying to say, that education is for my personal goals. And yes,
No,
you are
it
saying
cannot be personal
career-wise,
goals.
career-wise, I can have a career without having any education. There are many people who have given the example that they became millionaire, provided jobs to millions of people without being like Akbar, who was uneducated. He was a king. So career I can choose without being educated. But education is for my personal goal. Should we not make this distinction?
No, I may not completely agree with him. Because as the world is growing, you have to, Akbar days there was not even less population. Today the whole global community is there. You have to communicate. You need not work after education. If you are wealthy enough and your parents have kept you for 5 generations or not. But every individual would like to be self-discovery, where he would like to have his own self-esteem. So education is important. I'm also a school dropout. So what?
Do you want to elaborate after he's explained his question. He's not suggesting
I think
education is not important. He's
what
suggesting
I can relate to is that at some point of time in life, we also want to learn for learning itself. Okay. All learning need not be towards living. And at some point of time, people just want to learn them.
Do you want to add anything? Yeah, we just.
Yeah, I'd say there is some space for that, for like just independent education, but a large part of education is got to be relevant.
Okay. So, does anybody have a burning question? Or no? No. Do you want to just close? What is your vision of India at 100 for employability? It is.
So my vision is that I want the education places to be the places we love to go back to. All of us, when we were students, probably we wanted to get out of it as fast as possible. But now we want to go back to it.
I think just a simple one to your point, Manish, that you made and something I elaborated earlier. If every company, if every organization can think of building financing muscle for skills, I think we'll be in a much better place in 25 years now.
Continuous learning, and I agree.
Which is financing. Yeah. Just I want to why is that important? I mean,
The finance
it's hard enough to run a university. Do you really want them to think about microfinance and loans and stuff like that?
See, we are a capital-starved country at the end of the day, right? So solving for capital cannot be hyped off to something else.
Okay.
Everybody has got to think of that as their own capital.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We're over time, but it's fun.
I request your presence on the stage for a couple of minutes. So, thank you. No conversation is complete without the mention of artificial intelligence these days. It has the potential to reshape India's landscape sustainability. Universities play a critical role in this transformation, partnering with entities like National Skill Development Council to update curriculum and foster AI readiness in the future workforce is important. Furthermore, astute financial strategies and backing is vital, aiding in nurturing AI startups and enhancing the innovation ecosystem. Through your symbiotic relationship between each other, India can position itself at the forefront of AI revolution, and we will hope for an unprecedented growth and opportunities in the employment sector. Before we move forward, let's take a moment to express our gratitude to our esteemed panelists. Thank you for your illuminating insights and engaging discourse on India at 100 solving the employability challenge. I would now request Manish Agarwal to present the mementos to our esteemed speakers. Mr. Ved Tiwari, Mr. Sameer Shah, Dr. Chandra Joyton. I would now request Mr. Ved Tiwari to please present the memento to Mr. Manish Agarwal. I request you all for a group photo, please.
Itna time tha, we would have continued the panel. Summary, your photo back. We would have had more fun on the panel.
Okay, thank you everyone.